You're listening to episode 309 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman.
Well, I'm thrilled today to be joined by Katie Lopes from the fabulous brand Stripe and Stare that I think it was before the Grace Beverley podcast. I knew all about you because actually that was fairly recently in the grand scheme of things. And it's a super cool brand. I think it's really interesting over the last perhaps year, maybe more than a year. The last few years, we've seen a lot more of these female-led, female-founded brands aimed at things that females deal with every day, and they're getting the exposure they deserve. And pants, honestly, if you've got a pair of comfortable pants on, you can conquer the world, can't you?
Well, that's sorry. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. But yeah, that's our sort of founding belief is like nothing great was ever achieved in uncomfortable underwear. And I mean, I was a fashion buyer, God, longer ago than I'd like to admit, in the noughties. And I was selling sort of cool brands from all over the world. And we were selling underwear just as a little sort of upsell at the till. And we had this brand doing super comfortable thongs. And I was like, well, it's great that we've got this thong brand, but we're British and we like a pair of pants. So there was no one making it. And that's kind of how the journey began to create the world's most comfortable underwear. And yeah, I didn't set out with any grand plan to set up a label of my own, but it's sort of that's just kind of how it evolved, I guess. It started really small, little production runs. My mum made the first pair of knickers on her sewing machine because I can't sew, and met a man who had an underwear factory. And this was the time when you had Victoria's Secret having its heyday, which now feels like, I don't know about you, but it makes my skin crawl when I think back to those fashion shows and those unrealistic expectations. And it's very male gazy, super uncomfortable. You can see it's underwear designed by men for women, for men, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then you had your granny pants at the other end. And I was like, where is that cool, kind of joyful pair of knickers to put on in the morning? Because frankly, we've all got better shit to worry about than uncomfortable pants and wedgies and VPLs and all of that kind of stuff. So that's basically how it began.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you've just said. I couldn't agree more. So kind of take us back. So you were working in retail. Didn't you work in Australia for a bit as well?
Yeah, I'm half Australian. And I think it was interesting what you said at the beginning about the women and these female-led brands that are coming out more and more now, because I think there's a lot. That's my real passion. Everyone always thinks my passion is sustainability, and I think sustainability is just something that we should all be doing. We know enough now to be doing things in a better, more purpose-driven way, the right way, or the best way we can, because there's no such thing as perfection, but we can all do a lot better. But yeah, women and just confidence, female confidence around entrepreneurship and what we're all capable of is my passion, and inspiring people. And there's just such a sort of wave at the moment, I think, of women getting together and going, how are we going to change these entrepreneurship statistics, or and give women the confidence to go for building businesses, or it doesn't necessarily need to be business, but going for their dreams more and having more confidence in themselves. But yeah, I'm half Australian, and I think I grew up in the UK. I went to uni here. I worked in television here after I left university, and then I transferred with my television company to Sydney because I have the passport, so it was really easy. And I think just being in that kind of environment, which is, I mean, it's a much newer country we are, and maybe not the patriarchal systems maybe are not as strong as they are in the UK. And I saw all these women there accomplishing amazing things. Like I met the girls from Sass and Bide, which do you remember that label? It was really big. Yeah. But there were so many kind of women who were just going out there and owning it. And I think that really inspired me and gave me confidence that actually we can do anything we put our minds to. Yeah, so came back from Australia and set up the retail business with my sister, left television. And yeah, that's kind of how it all began.
Was it quite grating when you can see, you could see the difference between Australia and England and the way that women, they're wildly capable in both countries, but how one was really going for it and the other one just not so much?
I don't think I really noticed it at the time, particularly, but I think there was just that much more of an entrepreneurial spirit around everybody you met, and a lot more people taking risks maybe than we do here. I think that's sweeping generalizations, which I hate doing, but there was just something in that culture that really lit me up and made me feel like, we've only got one life and you've got to go for it and try these things and not be scared of failing. I think maybe we have a culture in the UK more around fear of failure and that kind of thing, whereas there's no shame in failure because all it shows is that you tried. So I have that as a sort of cultural brand DNA for my team, is like, all we want is for you to try and to shoot for the stars. And if sometimes it doesn't work out, then we move on together.
Yeah, completely.
Maybe that sort of culture rubbed off on me a bit. And it was so interesting. I talked to my team a lot about this because when I worked in the world of television in the UK, I would sit all day, every day in a meeting. Whereas in Australia, I had one meeting every week for 2.5 hours where the whole team would get together, we'd bash everything out, and then we'd just go away and do it. And we were so much more productive. So there was a real sort of get shit done mentality, which I've really tried to cling to with Stripe and Stare. And yeah, just keep things simple, basically.
No, I think you're completely right. Sometimes the system overcomplicates things, and it's so easy. So it's always been done this way. It's always been done this way, and nothing's broken. And you think, it's not broken, but it's not good, is it?
There's always different ways, better ways, new ways of doing things. So we try and keep things as simple as possible. It's harder as the team gets bigger, but we try.
Mm. So you started this brand with your sister, and obviously you're a huge brand now. I was reading actually just before you came on about, I think you did a piece for, I want to say it was the Mirror, but it might have been the Sun, about how you started off with significant debt, and now obviously you're turning over a really, really sizable sum, but you started off very low key.
Yes, we did. And small and steady. So going back to the store and how it began. So we started doing these tiny production runs and testing. We'd sell them to our customers, and I became like this knicker fanatic. I would be on the shop floor. I did my 10,000 hours, the Malcolm Gladwell rule of selling to customers on the shop floor, interrogating thousands of women about their underwear drawers, what they liked, what they didn't like, the fit on ours. And every time we did a new production run, we'd take in their feedback and tweak it and amend. So it was a really slow, gradual process. It wasn't like I said, oh, I'm going to launch a knicker brand tomorrow. It was like, and I love that we started that way because it felt very organic and slow and steady. And it meant that we literally did that for 8 years. So after that, we were approached by Selfridges. Alana Weston, who was the chairwoman of Selfridges, got given a pair of her knickers, and she was a real trailblazer, or is a trailblazer for sustainability. And she was like, well, they're the most comfortable things I've ever worn, plus they're sustainable. We don't have anything like that on the shop floor at Selfridges. How quickly can you come and start stocking to us? And I was like, okay. So it had also become the best-selling thing in the store. Our customers were loving it. We were getting amazing feedback. So I was like, okay, so I did a bit more research and spoke to some of the buyers from a US e-tailer called Shopbop. And they said, because I thought American women all wore thongs, and they said, actually, no, the younger, cooler customer is moving more to a fuller shape because it's more attractive. Like, it looks better, it feels more comfortable. You can get the same VPL-free effects as you can with a thong. So basically, how quickly can we start buying you as well? We've got a massive gap for this product. So I think at that point, I really knew that I had something big on my hands. It was not a straightforward journey, as you've said about the debt. I was going through a lot of personal issues and quite a messy divorce. And I found out that we were hugely in debt and had sold our house. Anyway, it was all very, very messy. So it was a real, God, I'm such a believer in the universe wakes you up with a bang sometimes. It was a real moment where I had to pull on my big girl pants, but thank God I had this product, which I knew had huge potential. So in 2017, I launched Stripe and Stare with my co-founder, Nicola. So everyone's always like, what's it like working with a co-founder? But actually it worked so well because she handled all the operations, the financials, which freed me up to just focus on product, the sales, the PR, the marketing, all of the bits that I love. But yeah, we started so small. We had £70,000. for everything. So every bit of marketing was organic, and you just hustle, and we hustled hard. And that's what I speak to a lot of female founders about, is I think we often start like I'm part of the Buy Women Built group. Do you know that group?
Love that group. It's
I know.
incredible.
It's so cool. I'm obsessed. And Sahar, the founder, is just, oh, she's iconic. But so we talk a lot as female founders, and I think it's another sweeping generalization, but most of us have started at our kitchen table. So Stripe and Stare started out of my house, orders shipped from here, my mum packing orders. There was no big millions of pounds of investment. It was all very slow, steady growth done it. But I think if we'd had too much money, we would have wasted it, made stupid mistakes with it. So it's actually stood us in really good stead just to go small, steady, organic as much as possible. I mean, we've brought in a lot of investment over the years, but always at the right time, knowing what we're going to do with it, being supremely confident with it, rather than if we'd had it and not known what to do with it, we would have wasted it.
I think that's really good. I think that the slow and steady, when I speak to people, and there's a lot nowadays about, I think things that there are programs, there are things you can apply for to get investment, to get money, but often people they feel that they need the money before they can even start trying, before they can start researching, before they can start experimenting. I don't know whether it's what we've been fed or what we feel we have to do, but people can do an awful lot on very little money just to start experimenting.
I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. And it living on your wits is very good for you because it makes you hustle.
Mm.
You have to hustle. So yeah, you do things in a very kind of sort of small way, which allows you to test. And still, even though we're a much bigger business now, if we do something new, we test before we go. And then once you see it working, that's when you start backing it, because you can say with confidence, oh, investing in Instagram ads has its ROI. So, but you can test everything small, and you can start and scrap. I hate saying with no money, because you obviously do need some money, but I mean, I was working around children, other jobs. There's just, and everyone always says, oh, how do you do it? There's no magic bullet. You put one foot in front of the other. You start the business plan. My God, yes, it will not be perfect to start with, but start with it. And then you can just keep tweaking, amending, following what's working, giving up what's not working. So I think starting on a shoestring is very helpful.
But again, I think this sort of loops back really nicely to what you said about this fear of failure. I think people see, they had this business plan and it doesn't work out that way. Oh, it's a failure, but actually it's not, because you don't know the things that aren't going to work until you get in it. You can do all the theory, all the research, but when you're in it, you get feedback you didn't expect because you've got the physical thing. And I think people are worried if their ideas aren't brilliant all the time, but they're not going to be. You've got to try and then
No, yeah,
improve.
for sure. It's I think the fear of failure, particularly in women, is very strong, and that idea of perfectionism, which we talk about a lot internally, but no one is perfect. Nothing is perfect, and you've just got to start somewhere, and you learn more from failing and getting things wrong than you do from when things are going right. And I'm such a believer that you fail for a reason, but the important thing is you learn from it, and you make sure you move on in the right way. Does that make sense? I'm not
Yes.
articulating it very well.
No,
I say
no,
to my children, you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. It's just that. What is the key to being an entrepreneur? And it's resilience. It is just toughing it out all day, every day. There's no other secret, I don't think.
no, that's very, very fair. So sorry, you developed the business a bit. When you got to the stage where Selfridges were interested, had you started to expand your team to be able to make the products, or was that the time when you thought we're going to need more people here?
No, not at all. It started with me, my co-founder Nicola, and my mum working for free. I'm still sorry, mum. I'm so grateful. It was 3 of us, and I don't think we got our first employee for it was the same time that we moved out of my house. So it was about 9, 10 months after launch. So we was doing everything from here for the first 9 months. But I mean, I had learnt, I had failed many, many times at many, many things through my retail business, which had actually stood me in quite good stead for setting up Stripe and Stare and bringing all that experience with me into this business. So it meant that between us, we had enough of a skill set to be able to cope with everything. So primarily we're a D2C brand. So between us, we had enough website experience to know that you go with Shopify, you use Xero for your accounts, just little things like that, which was super helpful. But yeah, between us, we managed it all for the first 9 to 12 months. And yeah, first employee started about 9, 10 months after launch. But again, it was so small. It was like a office admin assistant. So they were doing everything and supporting every bit of the business, from packing orders to customer service to web stuff. We were all just scrapping what every day, to-do list, what needs to be done today. And we would just divide it and conquer it.
Sure. And how did you scale up with the actual production of the product? Because I imagine that took a big step up when you had people from America asking for the product and Selfridges asking for the product. And, was it just your mum working 24/7?
Not just her, we were too. She wasn't the only one packing orders, just so you don't think I'm like slave labor. But
It's
yeah,
fine.
we were doing absolutely everything ourselves. Every wholesale order, we'd never had a warehouse. We always managed our own distribution, because I'd learned, that was
Wow.
another thing I'd learned along the way, was actually 3PLs can be very expensive and you lose a bit of controllability of your stock. So it's like we can ship the orders. We know how to do that. So yeah, we were doing everything, and things like having that initial purchase order from Selfridges and Shopbop funded the production run for our first orders. So it allowed us to buy the stock for our own websites as well. So it was proper scrappy, like, okay, we need 5K. Where are we going to get it? How are we going to get this? Okay, let's get a purchase order from them, and then we can offset, and we know we've got the security blanket of knowing we've already sold 50% of that order, and then it allows us to sell the other 50%.
Was it quite nerve-wracking when you sort of went up that level and had to get those volumes of stock in?
Yeah, but being an entrepreneur it is scary. You've got to take risks, but just make sure that they're really educated risks and you're not betting the house, which is another lesson. But there's always a way of finding, the money you need to fund things, if it makes sense. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I think, again, sometimes when you get a no, people go, "Oh, that's it. I'm done. I tried. It didn't
I
work."
love being told no, because it makes me go, fuck you, I'm going to show you I can do this.
Yeah. But that's the attitude you need as an entrepreneur, isn't it? It's not, if you're confident in your idea, you've done the research, you understand it. The person that says no to you just clearly doesn't understand it, or they're not your person, or they're not the right person to get involved in your business. So find the right one.
Yeah, completely. I think when I was starting the knickers, certain factories told me that you could never, because what I did was I couldn't understand when I looked at a pair of sort of everyday pants, why there were so many heavy elastic seams, which was giving you the VPL and the uncomfortableness. So I was like, well, if we put this lace here and we do the flat lock stitch, then that's going to solve the problem. It'll keep it in place and eliminate the lines. And lots of factories said to me, oh, that can't be done. Can't do that. And I was like, well, you say no, but I'll find somebody who can. And that's sort of that attitude I think you need.
And so you got the Selfridges order, you got the American order. How did it sort of scale and grow from there?
So I can still remember our every year turnover. We did 120,000 in the first 9 months, which was sort of our year. And of that, probably 60% was wholesale and the rest was D2C. And then we did a jump up to 440 the following year. I think we kept those two as our major wholesale accounts. We had a few boutiques, and the wholesale piece, because that was really unfashionable when we started this business. All of these companies were completely focused on D2C. Everybody was spending all their money on Google, Facebook ads. That was not a world I understood at all. So we didn't do any paid marketing. God, I'm actually embarrassed, for like the first 3-4 years, everything was done on word of mouth, Instagram, recommending organic. But we did experience really rapid growth on our D2C, which enabled us to then eke out some budget for marketing. The first thing we did was sponsor the High Low, which was a podcast with Dolly Alderton and Pandora Sykes. And that was done. I look back now and it's like, how was I so ballsy? But it was a huge proportion of our turnover. But I knew it was going to work because they were cool, authentic women that everybody respected and admired. They were clever, but they were also really fun. And it was very authentic because they genuinely were already wearing our product and loving it. So were happy to give us in their own words, rave reviews. So it was all done on that sort of scrap and eking out budget to find a way of doing those things that you know are going to work. Like now we look at everything, it has to be backed up with data and all that kind of thing. And I talk to a lot of my entrepreneur friends, and so much of what we've done is instinct. And if somebody says, prove to me that that's going to work, an investor says, prove that that's going to work, and it's like, well, I can't. It's just instinctively I know it's going to. But so we did the 120, then we did the 440, and then I think the next year we did 1.7 million. So we leapt from 440 to 1.7, and then I think the following year was 3.5 million. Because I hate saying this, but COVID was a good time for us because we were shipping online. Everybody was at home wanting comfort. So yeah, the growth was really big, and through that time we went from our team of 4 to, I think by the end of 2021, to a team of about 15, I want to say.
Crikey, that's a big jump in people, I say, on your team as well.
Yeah, it was a big step up, and it was like we were racing every day. We just couldn't keep up with what was going on. And it was just quickly like sort of plug the gap. Oh my God, we can't keep up with the orders and fulfilling them. We need more people. And so it was very much like it wasn't as strategic as it should have been and planned out as it should have been. It was sort of very hand to mouth and how are we going to get through tomorrow type feeling. But then we came out of COVID and we were like, right, this growth is pretty major. And we were still doing things very much without the paid ads on Insta and the paid marketing side. We had the brand marketing side really nailed, but the paid marketing side, we were very late to that party. So we did some analysis on our KPIs. Sorry, I hate it when people use acronyms, but our key performance indicators, we got some sort of proper data geeks in to do a project on looking at that. And we realized one of the reasons I love underwear so much is because of the customer loyalty. It's unlike anything else that we wear. Once you find something you love, you go back again and again. And I knew that 90% of women who wore our underwear said it was the most comfortable they'd ever worn. So it's all that stuff, again, instinctively, but it's great having that data there to go, what you're saying is true. Your average customer comes back within 3 months and shops again, looking at their lifetime values, and they literally burst out laughing when they saw how much we'd been paying to acquire customers. Like they were like, this is a joke. It's an absolute joke. They'd never seen metrics like it. And they were like, well, if you start doing this, that, then you're kind of going to get there. So that's when we brought in a VC to sort of get proper backing for bigger growth. I've just talked a lot with a lot of information. Did that make any sense at all?
Yeah, no, loads of sense. No, absolutely.
Just checking.
No.
When you live in a world of like KPIs and customer acquisition costs and lifetime values and that stuff, it's like, yeah.
There's a lot to process, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like the growth is incredible and what you're doing now is incredible. But on that journey, was there a point when you thought, we've made it? Or is it constant?
No, it's constant. You never think that. There've definitely been moments of like, and people always say this, just take a minute when there is a moment. And I think it's really important because I'm very bad at doing it. I'm always like, what's next? But there've been moments like becoming B Corp was a real moment. So having that analysis of our business and them say, give us the stamp of approval was really cool. Oprah wearing our things and DMing us saying how much she loved them. That was a moment.
That's insane, isn't it? That's just insane.
I mean, that's part of why that wholesale part has always, I mean, I'm very old school with fashion, having worked in it since the noughties. And when all those brands were like tearing up wholesale and just focusing on D2C, I was like, well, it, the wholesale part gives you credibility. It's not every brand that's in Selfridges or Shopbop, or we're just about to launch Nordstrom. So it gives you that piece to your customer, the confidence that this is a brand that's good enough for them. But it's also the brand awareness, and it's part of how people find you, and it's your physical presence where they can touch and feel. And that's how Oprah found us. She found us in a store in Montecito in California. So there was no we didn't pay her to say that. She went into a shop, touched it, loved it, and bought it. So it was very organic and genuine and authentic.
I think
Yes, so
that
definitely big moments like that along the way, which keep all the hard work going.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? When people are thinking, oh, do I want to go direct to customer, or do I want to go to wholesale? We tend to think about, well, the money. You make much money direct, but there's a lot more work direct, and also people need to come looking for that specific thing. Whereas if someone like Oprah is just strolling around a shop and goes, oh, what's that? That's standing out in that section. There's a chance that she would never have found out about you unless you'd taken that action.
No, she wouldn't have. She wouldn't have. So again, that's an instinctive thing where the experts, I hate that word, were saying, well, you don't want to do that. It's a waste of time and money. And it's like, well, no, because it's part of the process. And now actually all those D2C brands are frantically trying to open stores and get physical presences and go into wholesalers. So yeah, I think it's another big part of a lesson that I've learned along the way is believing in yourself. I think I used to be incredibly bad at that. I would listen to every expert thinking they were cleverer than me, they knew more than me. So that's been a real lesson for me along this journey, is actually you're not stupid. You do know this, you don't know much, but you know a lot about this market, this product. So when you think something's right, it probably is. I mean, I don't always get it right, my God, I'm no expert in everything, but I think believing in yourself and trusting your instincts is so important, because then if you do make a mistake, it's your mistake, and you don't kick yourself because you've taken some expert advice and then it's gone wrong, because then you're like, why did I not just trust myself?
But also that I think, sometimes we can have that inactivity is awful. If you are listening to lots of experts, everyone's got conflicting views. You find that you don't do anything. You just kind of tread water, and you're not making progress in any direction. So you kind of failed
Completely.
by default.
And how annoying would that be?
Hugely, hugely. It's if you do something and it goes wrong, then you can learn from that. There will be learnings in it. Whereas if you're just there in a panic, and I think even like if you listen to too many different podcasts, it hurts my brain. If I've got lots
Yeah.
of different advice, it might all be right, but if everyone's telling me a completely
Too
different,
much noise. That was another lesson as well, is like when all my stuff was happening about the debt and getting divorced, there was so much noise and uh, people's advice on what to do. But actually when I began to come out of it was when I did take a step back, when I really slowed down, and actually listening to podcasts was really key. So, but being very careful about the ones I listen to and just editing out, because we are so overwhelmed with
everything.
everything coming at us all day long. So
Yeah.
I think that time is really, I'm really bad at finding it now, and I have to make more of an effort to because when we have the time, when we have the quiet, that's when the ideas come to us and we can make better decisions, I think.
Hmm. I was reading something online about the staggeringly low percentage of investors that invest in female founded businesses. And you were saying, obviously, you've had investment yourself. How did you find that process?
So we started with 70,000 in angel investment um, from one person, and that was enough for us to launch with. And then once we sort of had a bit more traction and knew what we wanted the next bunch of money for, so more investment into stock and a bit more infrastructure, and I think that was when we were going to rent our first warehouse. So then we went and took on a bit more, and we did an email. It was at that 9-month period. That's why we always keep talking about that, when we brought on our first member of staff and when we moved to an actual physical premise that wasn't my house. we sent a message to our customer database just saying, so it was like a mini crowdfund. We didn't really know we were doing that, but it was like a mini crowdfund, just like, hey, we're going to invest. Does anybody want to invest in us? And we raised everything we needed. I think it was about 250,000 in a week or two.
From your
So that was
customers?
from real customers.
Wow. That, I mean, if that's not an endorsement for how much they love your brand, nothing is.
I know. I mean, we were staggered. So we were going to raise a bit. Our plan was to raise a little bit that way, and then maybe go and get a more institutionalized, investor. But we didn't need to, and so that was a great launch for the next phase. And then we did a little bit more angel investment along the way. I think just having a rock solid business plan and a vision, because they're ultimately investing in anyone who makes an angel investment is taking a leap of faith. So just knowing what you're talking about, showing you've done the research, that you've got a really good plan, that if the plan changes, and it will change, it always changes, you've got a backup plan and you can react really quickly and respond to what's working and what isn't. So being nimble, I think, is very, very important. And then, yeah, so it was all angel investment up until the point of when we took on VC funding in 2021, when we decided to we raised about 1.5 million at that point. Yeah, so it's mostly been angels, and I love the angel side, but it's that business plan. Everyone's like, how do you write a business plan? It's like, you just start somewhere, look online, get a template, start filling it out, and you can just keep working on it all the time.
Yeah.
And the VC stuff is yeah, so that the 2%, I think it actually went backwards last year as the amount of money from investors into female-led businesses. I think it was less than 2%, which is super depressing. So that's why that By Women Built group is so important to me, because it's us coming together to hopefully inspire other women to take that leap. I just think it's such a great, when I became a single mother, and I had I think a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old at that point, I was like, what job can I do where I still get to be a mother to them, but I still get to work super hard and create a future for us? And this was the job that I can't think what other job I could have done. I couldn't have gone and got a 9-to-5 desk job, because I would never have seen my children and been there for them. But this job has allowed me to work incredibly hard, but at slightly odd hours, I think is the best way of describing it. So I just think it's a really good option for women. It's not for everybody, my God. Don't think I'm saying that, but I don't think it's something that us women should discount.
And I think that's part of the juggle, isn't it? I mean, I know my kids are on some holiday at the moment. Thank God my mother-in-law's got them today, and I know that yours are around. But it is sort of doing things unconventionally, isn't it? It's kind of
Yeah,
chucking out the rule book and making it work,
yeah, absolutely it is.
because it's intense. The juggle is intense.
I have not stopped for we launched into so what we're going into coming up to our 7th anniversary, but I haven't stopped for 7 years. But I'm so grateful to that, because it's provided the opportunity for me and my family. And I'm you probably already grasped, quite a full-on person, so I'd rather it that way than too slow and not lighting me up and interesting. And I'd rather work hard and very fast for a bit than plod forever. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I read an interview given that said you're either 100 miles an hour or sort of flat out.
There's literally no middle ground, and that's what I think I'm terrified of is if I stop, I might never get back up again. So
The momentum. You need the momentum to keep you going.
keep going. But my job now as a founder, we've got a team of 35 and we're a much bigger business. So part of that process of the VC was putting in a lot more structure as a business. We couldn't carry on the fumes, hand to mouth way. I'm not talking about in terms of finance, but in terms of planning, strategizing, all of that kind of thing. I think that works to a point, but then they talk about, you'll probably know better than me, there's the scale up, there's the startup part, and then there's the scale up part. And as we moved into the scale up part, it was time for structure. So we brought in a mega CEO. She's ex-Bowden. She had 20 years experience in product and fashion and retail. So she really understood the merchandising side and the structure much better than my co-founder or I ever could have. But so now my job really is to light the team up, to look at what's next, to keep that momentum going. So yeah, it's my job to keep busy.
Which is brilliant. I'm thinking about your whole journey. Obviously, I think any entrepreneur would say there've been highs and lows along there. And I wanted to start with the lows. Is there a particular low along your stripe and stare journey when you just thought this is too flipping hard? This is just a lot.
There have definitely been moments of that. I don't think there's been like one massive moment of like, oh my God. There's just moments through the course where you're like, how many more issues can I deal with? You know, a product comes in and it's not right. An order goes astray, and maybe you know, it's hard not to take all of those things very personally into heart. So you have to always be like, right, how can I fix it? Not get. I went to a talk by the CEO of Gymshark the other day.
Or
And
Ben Francis.
no, I think Ben's the founder. The CEO is a guy called Steve Hewitt.
You're quite right. Ben's the founder. Sorry, you're absolutely spot on.
I've not heard Ben talk. I've heard he's amazing too, but Steve I thought was just awesome. And he said, you know, when there's a down moment, you mourn it for 24 hours, then you move on. And it's back to that resilience. You keep picking yourself up, pick yourself up. And equally, when there's something that goes really right, you celebrate for 24 hours, then you move on. But, you know, just 24 hours, you give yourself your 24 hours. So I think it's knowing when everything's a bit too much for you and you're just like, you know what, I've got to take a step back, I've got to breathe, and then we move forward again. So there's not been a moment where I've thought this is too hard and I want to give up, but moments of just like, how do I deal with yet more shit?
Yeah. What's been the biggest high, or have there been a few highs? I mean, you've mentioned quite a few amazing things already.
Well, I think the Dolly and Pandora, the high low, them agreeing to talk about us on the high low was a real high, because they're not easy, those girls, as in they're incredibly picky about what they will support and they won't. So being accepted by them was really cool at that moment. Other ones are brand collaborations that we've done we did a US brand collaboration with Love Shack Fancy. I don't know whether you've heard of them, but that went, it's this huge brand in America. It's not so big over here, but we took their prints and put them on our underwear. So two female-led businesses working together, like, to create a great product. And we sold out. I mean, we sold out some of the product in 10 minutes and most of it within an hour. And it was a big collection. So
Wow.
that was like, we all just sat there watching the sales go, oh my God, oh my God. And the press around it was amazing. Like every magazine from Vogue to, I don't know, all of them talking about how great it was. So that was a moment. Then there's been little moments along the way, like working with Fearne Cotton was awesome. She's incredible. There was a moment when an American influencer called Ariel Charnas talked about us. And we thought the website was broken because it was registering like 10,000 people were on it. I'm like, I remember I was in a meeting or on a call or something. I think my one employee called and was like, our website's broken because so many people have just placed an order. We've just done like £50,000 in sales in the last half an hour. I was like, what the fuck? There must be a bug in there. It must be hackers. So like little, you know, there are these wins along the way and you've just got to grab them. And then obviously I've talked about Oprah. That was just because she was on my original, when I was doing my listening to the podcasts before we launched and taking my walks and taking my times. The women I listened to were Oprah Winfrey, Fearne Cotton, Chelsea Handler, because I don't know whether you know her, she's an American comedian, but she's so punchy and just like fuck everything, just fuck it all, that kind of thing, but in a very clever, cool way. So all these women that I'd been listening to, suddenly I'd work with all of them. So I think those moments are like, wow, Katie, you just should hold this for a second each time one of those partnerships has happened.
And
Yeah, so lots of little moments along the way.
absolutely. I mean, I think as well, when you said about Fearne Cotton, I was reading about that she's a huge fan, and you talked about the High Low podcast, and that's very much going to influence the marketing, isn't it? The way that it is perhaps now, but you know, because these people were genuine fans of yours before they became influencers. How do you use influencer marketing now? Do you see it as influencer marketing? What do you think about this influencer marketing culture? It seems to be in the news way too much for the wrong reasons.
I don't know. We talk about it way too much as a business because everything changes so quickly. And what worked yesterday doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work tomorrow. We were really lucky on the podcast thing because and that's what us little brands have on our side is nimbleness. So when we sponsored the podcast, there was no data. Podcasts were brand new. Everyone was like, "Oh, what's this fun little purple button on my phone?" And I was like, "But we're all listening to it." So that it was accessible to us as a small brand, because it was before McDonald's and BT had found it, so they weren't sponsoring. So the rates were really accessible. So it started like that, and just doing something different that nobody else, it wasn't like the thing to do at the time was let's sponsor a podcast. I was like, why aren't we sponsoring these people? They're amazing. We started off with influencers on socials very organically. So it was just gifting, and we just said, if you like it, talk about it. If you don't. So where has it left us today? Podcasts are much more expensive now, which is really depressing. We still do a bit with people like Elizabeth Day from How to Fail, but the rates have gone up so much, and we're still scrappy, we're still in scale up mode. So we have to be careful with every pound that we spend on marketing. So we have a constant internal dialogue about paid marketing. So your Google, your Instagram paid bits versus brand marketing, which is more of maybe a paid partnership. I think where we're landing at the moment is you have to do the paid. It's somewhere between 50 to 60% of our marketing budget. We still have absolutely core to our DNA as we only work with people who genuinely love our brand on the brand marketing side. But luckily, there's a big pool of them out there. So we are lucky that we get that choice of partnerships. We're doing we do less paid partnerships on Instagram. We more do affiliate stuff. So if you like us, talk about us, and here's a code, so you kind of earn commission, but only if you genuinely believe it, because our customer is so clever. If someone starts like telling her something they clearly don't believe, then she'd be like, she will turn off instantly. I think there's people are getting a little bit jaded on Instagram about being sold to and the paid stuff. So yeah, we're always looking at what's going to be the fun, new, truly authentic way of getting the brand out there. So yeah, influencer, that was a very long-winded answer. They're still important to us, those influencer partnerships, but we are just a bit careful that people are not getting a bit jaded. Like, there's a lot of talk about the true bloggers, the OG bloggers are now moving on to Substack. So actually that's so much more sort of authentic, real. And if those followers genuinely love the blogger, they're moving over to Substack to see more genuine, authentic, deep dive content than maybe we always talk about, we don't want our Instagram to look like just a pretty girl in a pair of pants. It's got to have meaning, and it's got to have power, and it's got to be women that we respect and admire, and authentic and genuine, and all of those kind of things. Question in a very kind of
no, it was great. It was great.
Katie brain way.
No, it was brilliant. I think what you said about that authentic, genuine thing. I mean, I hate the term real women, because actually, if you are a size 6, you're still a real woman. It doesn't
I completely agree.
matter.
Yes, I
Um,
completely agree.
but the variation, I think, is so important. It's something that I like seeing on social media. I like, people that are much, much smaller than I am, people that are bigger than I am, people that are taller, shorter.
Yeah, it's just celebrating how different we all are, and nobody's perfect, and there's no shame in being real. I mean, I'm quite old school, so I still love things to look beautiful, but there's not to say a size 20 can't look just as beautiful as an old school, what you would expect in a fashion model to look beautiful. And that's the thing I think I'm most proud of about Stripe and Stare, is the broadness in our demographic in terms of age and size and all those things. So my teenage daughter is 15. She wears it. I'm 48. I wear it. My mum is 77. She wears it. Like, I really love to think of us as an ageless brand, and it's more about an attitude and strength, and women who want to go out there and take no shit and take on the day and take on the world and go for their dreams. So that's why for me it's much more than just a pair of pants.
Completely. The last question I'm going to ask you before I ask you all the places we can find you is, what advice would you give somebody who is perhaps in a similar situation to you? They've maybe seen something that they think is missing in the market. They've started to do some research. They feel it's actually really difficult because they've got a lot of stuff going on. What advice would you give them to kind of give them a push to get started, or to try?
Think it's, and actually this is something I've spoken to Sahar, the founder of By Women Built Group. It's just start. And I think you learn quite quickly whether something has got legs or not. but you don't know until you start. So if it's a product you're launching, just try and have a few manufactured and get people to wear them, and ask your friends, is this something that you would want in your life? What do you want from it? All this stuff it's pretty much free. Like, it doesn't cost much to get a sample made by a factory if it's a product. Or start your business plan and just see whether it's flowing and going and whether it's got legs. But you've just got to start. There's no shortcut. It's just putting in the work.
Completely. Is there anything else you would like to add or share before I ask you all the places we can find out about you online, and obviously go and look at all the amazing Stripe and Stare products, because you've expanded that range as well, haven't you?
Yeah, my goodness, it's growing. I mean, I think you've probably been able to grasp already by this interview that I've got pretty significant ADHD, so my brain jumps around a lot. So I hope some of this has made sense and been
All of it
helpful.
has. I've loved
Oh,
it. I've
good.
loved every minute. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's just like, bleh. But I'm actually quite an introvert, and I don't talk that much in normal circumstances. But when it comes to pants, I can't stop. Um,
That's good. You should. I mean, if you're not passionate about something you've dedicated so much of your life to, and
you'd
I
be a
imagine,
worry.
yeah, the sleepless nights and everything else, then, that is a
Yeah,
worry.
you've got to believe in what you're doing. I think if you don't believe in what you're doing, truly know to the depths of your soul that it's something with potential, then the hard work would be practically impossible, I would guess. No, yeah, so the range is really exciting. So, I mean, if I had my way, I mean, when we did start, I was like, I think we need to test out some stripy pencils and some stripy jumpers. And so focus is key. So having people around me who help me focus the brain is very good. But we are expanding with underwear and sleep. So we've now got the knicker, I think, in 7 shapes. Very soon. When's this podcast coming out?
Very soon. Should be next week, actually.
Well, 5th of September, we've got a very exciting launch. We have a
Right.
huge opportunity in the soft bra world. Our customers have been begging for it. It's like, where's the full range of bras to go with my knickers? We're launching on the 5th of September.
Oh, wow.
Big bra shop. So, there's so much we can do within underwear. And the sleepwear does really well. And the layering pieces like bodies have done brilliantly for us. So just growing within the boundaries of not designing candles or whatever like crazy idea I have tomorrow, but just keeping within our boundaries of world's most comfortable underwear and sleepwear. But
And I guess
lots
what
of
your
people
target
in the back.
audience really, really wants as well. You know them inside out.
I
So
hope so. Like, you always feel with D2C that it's so boring, isn't it, talking through screens, and I miss that real life interaction when I was on the shop floor. So we're always looking at ways where we can talk more to our customers, hear their voices more. We always want to hear from them. Like, we're properly a customer first business, where I think I probably read 90% of the DMs, messages, emails that come in. Like, we all try and stay really close to our customer.
amazing. So tell us all the places we can find you online.
So our website, so stripeandstare.com. Then if you're international, well, we do ship internationally from our site, but Shopbop, if you're in America, is a great place to find us. Selfridges, in store in London, and lots of boutiques around the UK, which are all listed on our website.
And you're just Stripe and Stare on Instagram, aren't you?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been brilliant to talk to you, and all the very best with your new launch and everything else. I'll be keeping a beady eye, because it's
Oh,
great to see
and
brands
we've
do
got
so
some
well.
really exciting brand collaborations coming up too, so keep an eye out for those. Yeah, lots in the pipeline. Thank you so much for having me.